Good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's webinar. It's Mike that's going to be running through today's session, and we do have Ollie on the live chat. So what we're going to be covering today is manifests and how they work within Prima and how they link into the pod app. So I'm going to be focusing mostly on the manifests, how you can set them up, how you can make sort of life easier when you're trying to plan your routes and getting your deliveries out of the morning, and how to save yourself a little bit of time with sort of getting everything set up in initial to make life easier when it comes to actually getting your deliveries out. So a few bits that we're going to cover. We're going to cover van routes, how you can set them up, where you can assign them, the importance of them and how you can use them. Then we're going to be looking at how you can create a manifest and the process behind that, and basically how you can split that down and the different ways that you can use it, as well as a few new features that are within the manifests of the latest version. So we'll get started, and the first bit of sort of this whole sort of section is ensuring that you've got your sort of your Prima database set up to work how you want, especially when it comes to this aspect. And one of the main things within here is your van routes. So depending on sort of your business and how you work, you may have just the one van, or you may have multiple vans which cover sort of specific locations, and that'll be something that you'll sort of decide internally. Now within Prima, you can actually set your customers up to be assigned to, customer locations to be assigned to a specific van. So it may be that you do your van routes based on sort of location, you do your van routes based on sort of that specific van. It all depends on how you sort of currently sort of manage it through the paperwork. It's just basically transferring that setup and what you do into an electronic form. So with your van routes, you actually set them up within the admin. So under general, within the admin, you've got van routes, and basically you've got the option to add van routes. And if you've got multiple depots, you can select these sort of by depot. So if you've got different warehouses, you can sort of select the depot, but you can just basically set them up in here and name them whatever you want. Some sort of, for example, this database here, this is based off of location. So if you're in and around your area, maybe sort of North London, South London, you may do it by sort of county. If you cross county lines or whatever it may be, that you want to use, you can basically set them up within here. Once you've actually got your van route set up, it's all about assigning them to your companies. So you may want to be sort of specific and do it via postcode or whatever. And you can sort of go through the company grid manager and use that to assign them on sort of mass. But if you're going to be assigning to specific locations and say, well, this location here is whatever van route, if you actually just go into your locations, whether through the company or the location lookup, on the right hand side you have the option for the van route. So this sort of specific location here is assigned to the Cheshire van route. So say it depends on how you have them set up, whether it's numbered by the amount of vans that you've got, so van 1, van 2, etc., or whether you do it based on sort of location, and then sort of split out the deliveries per that location by your drivers. All depends on how you currently work. So once you've got your van routes and everything set up, to ensure that these locations are all going to be the same area, rather than having your drivers sort of go here, there and everywhere in your location, you want to sort of make them do the deliveries in and around sort of a central location, saving you money on fuel and time, whatever it may be. It's actually time to set up your sort of van route, your manifest, sorry. And to do that, if we just close out of this, and if we go into your goods out sort of lookup, now we're not going to be going through sort of your dispatches too much in detail here. In order for you to actually get your dispatch notes onto your manifests, you just go into your available lines. Once you click your available lines, you'd search for your all the notes, all the lines that need to be sent out. You'd hit create an ad, and you would go through your notes that way. So if you want a little bit more information on your dispatch, there is another webinar covering that. So it may be something that you want to spend a little bit of time looking into that as well and seeing how the dispatches work. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to create your dispatch notes in order to actually put them on a manifest. So once you've got your notes ready, if we go into movements and then manifests, currently there's a big long list that we've got outstanding here, so you can see sort of all of your outstanding manifests. the manifest number, the status, whether it's something that's outstanding, so today's today's outstanding deliveries, whatever it may be, the depot that it's against, the actual route name. So if you do use it via route, you can see what deliveries are on my Cheshire route, what deliveries are on my Van 1 route, depending on how you have it set up, the date that it's been created, and then who it's been created by, and then further along the driver, the weight, and the actual line count, so how many deliveries are on that note. So it may be that you need to do some switching if one driver's got a really busy day and one hasn't. You may want to even out whatever process that you do. So that's a lookup. Once you've created your note, you want to come into here, you want to hit this available lines button in the top right hand corner, and this will open up this create manifest screen. Now if I just hit search, you may notice something new that's in here, and this is a new feature that's coming into the next version. And as of the next version, you actually can put your collection notes onto it, so your returns. So rather than you having to send your drivers out with a manual collection note, they will be able to use the pod app to sign for that collection to so rather than it being paper based, we are giving you the electronic copy of that as well. So you see with your return notes here, they're at the very bottom. So within here, you'll be able to see what type of note that you're actually putting on, how many boxes that delivery is, who it's for, and more specifically the van route. So after you've set up your van routes against your locations, and your staff have been putting on orders, you've been purchasing, and it's ready for you to actually deliver those goods, you'll be able to see in here what routes are available, whether where you're going to be doing your deliveries this day. So it'll just be a case of when it comes round to yourselves, you would highlight everything relevant in here, because that is stuff that either needs to be collected or goods that need to be dispatched. So within here, you can actually search on a van route. So if you only want to create your notes by van route, then you can. Alternatively, if you are a dealer and your business only has the one van, but you're still using the pod, you would just highlight everything in here, and you wouldn't bother about the van routes. You would literally just create one manifest, because that's all you've got available to yourselves. But if you've got multiple vans, it may be worthwhile looking at the different van routes. It'll save you a little bit of time, based on delivering on area, whatever it may be that you decide. So if I just select a few of these in here, because we're going to create a manifest with a couple on. If I hit this create notes, it'll take us to this available manifest screen, because what it allows us to do is see any outstanding manifest that may be created, and add the deliveries to here on the right hand side of this screen. But on the left hand side, we've got actions for route. So if we didn't have anything outstanding, it may be that you just come in here, and if you've only got the one van, you would hit create new manifest with all your deliveries, and that would just create an outstanding manifest. But if you're a dealer that has multiple vans, you split it down by van route. You can select specific routes to create them for. So you can create a blank one for this south route. You can create a manifest based on the available routes within here. So if you did have multiple van routes, it would list the routes and split them down by how many notes are on that van route. So you can easily create all of your routes as one, rather than having to automatically sort out, well, this is Cheshire route, this is the north route, etc, etc, etc. So for example, this no van route, if we wanted to create for this chosen route, we can just hit create new manifest, and on the right hand side it will create this no van route here. And obviously if you have multiple van routes in here, you had all your different routes, you'll be able to create a route, manifest by route, by just selecting create new manifest. If there's any others that you go on, you'll see you may make an amendment to a note, or there's a late order that you've just noticed that's been allocated. You can actually come into here and add notes to selected manifest directly from this screen. Alternatively, there is a little bit of a quicker way. So it may be that you want to sort them down individually rather than letting Prima do it automatically, because within the actual manifests, if I just close out of this and this again, if we go into an outstanding manifest, you are able to load available items to this route. So based on whatever you've got in here, if you go, well, this hasn't actually got a van route, but it's relatively close to one of the drop-offs, I can actually just add that onto there. So it all depends on what you want to do. You can easily just highlight one of them and hit add to manifest and add that to a specific delivery, because you know it's in a relatively close location. So what you've also got in there, if you do notice that anything is incorrect and you need to remove something or you need to transfer it, you can always use the transfer selected item at the very bottom, and it'll allow you to transfer that specific sort of delivery or collection to another van route based on sort of what jobs are available, or if there's too many on one and you need to sort of have a collection picked up by someone else that's in a relatively similar location, you can transfer it if needs be. So a few new features that are in here. Now, sort of within your manifests, one of the newest features is you can actually see how many boxes there are available, and it'll be something you have to actually manually put on. But if I just double click one of these notes, this will take us through to the relevant sort of dispatch note within here. Now on the top right hand corner of that note, we've got the number of boxes. So if you know, when you're doing your notes, so you want to know sort of how many deliveries are for that specific job, so your driver can take them. You can mark down the number of boxes. So for example, there was the 3 boxes on here. We can easily just type in the top right hand corner the number of boxes for this delivery, save, and that will actually, if I close this and give this a refresh, update the amount of boxes. So when your driver's doing his checks before he goes, he knows that, well, he's got to have 5 boxes in the back of his van. If he's only got 4, then he knows that he may have missed something. So allows you to be a little bit careful with your deliveries, rather than sort of having something that hasn't gone and gets left behind. So it makes things a little bit safer. And to update that and actually put the boxes in, you can just double click one of your dispatch notes and add it in on the right hand side after you've picked all of your goods. So another thing to add into here is the maps. So as long as you've got your locations set and your coordinates set within your locations, you are able to use, if I just go to this maps tab, the maps within the manifest. Now at the very top you've got a route type and it shows as custom. Now if it shows as custom, this is basically because you've had a bit of a mess about with the jobs here using these move up and down. So it may be that you know, well, I want to start sort of further away and work myself back in. So you can move up and move down these options and these deliveries. And basically when you do that, if we go back to the map, it will update and it will do the jobs. So for this one, we're starting over here, going all the way into Liverpool, and then we're coming back into Widnes to do the final drop off. Now, if you right click within this grid, you can view the standard route, which is what Google thinks is best. So again, they want to start here, go to the first drop off, go to the second drop off in Liverpool, and then finish back here. So you can sort of select whether or not you're going to be using that route or use the custom route that you've set based on the ordering that you've been doing. And it's just a case of, you can use the standard route if you want, and it will reorder the lines based off the standard route that Google Maps thinks is best. It'll show you the mileage. If we go back to the manifest detail, it'll have reordered the jobs based on that route that's been selected. But again, you can just use the move up or down to reorder the deliveries that you need to do. And that'll sort of give it you the best route as you've got. But that will only work if you've got your the coordinates set. So if you do need any help setting the coordinates, just contact the team and we can get them set for you and run through that with you to help you out if you are going to be using the proof of delivery. So once you're happy with your notes, with your manifest, whether you've split them down by van routes or you've just got one van route because you've only got one van, it's actually time to actually get this loaded onto your pod app. So you would select the driver, you would click this load button. What that would then do, it would then send it to your pod app. You would go through the motions in the pod app to load that manifest onto there, and then you would be set, ready to go in your deliveries. If you want to look at the pod app specifically and the functionality on there is another webinar that we can point you in the right direction of, if you want to have a look at how that works. It's not something we'll be covering today, but you would go through the motions on a pod app, you would get your deliveries signed for, and as you're going through your deliveries, and this is sort of for you more internally to see where your drivers are up to. You know, if a customer goes, well, when's my delivery going to be? As your sort of driver is going through the motions and going through the deliveries, you can easily come back into here and it will show you sort of what jobs they've done so far. And this status would turn to, if we just go back to one a little bit further down, I think that one's blank, I'm not sure why that one's loaded. I'm not sure why that one's not loading anything on that, but if we go back, this status here of outstanding would change to dispatched, and your delivered date would update with the time, and it'll timestamp what you've been through. I'm not sure, we've not been able to get one up here, but we are in a test database, so that may be why. But this delivered date would update and give you an accurate time of when they've been doing the deliveries, as well as showing the latest job that they're on, so you'll be able to give your customer a bit of an indication of how long it may be and when the delivery is going to be. But apart from that, that's all that we've got covered today. So just a little bit of a recap. If you're going to be looking at using the pod and the manifest, it may be worthwhile investigating sort of van routes and see if they'll work well for you, depending on how your business works. You create a manifest, just ensure that you've created either your collection notes, your customer returns, or your dispatch notes first before trying to create a manifest. Otherwise, there'll be nothing in there for you to sort of manage and create. After that, creating your manifest, you can easily sort of transfer items within the actual manifest if you do have any issues, and you can actually create your manifest blank and use the available items at the top to build them sort of a little bit manually if you prefer that. But with the van routes, if you do have them set up using the available lines, it will basically just split your manifest down into the available dispatches for them van routes, which will make your life a little bit easier when it comes to sorting everything rather than having to do it by hand. So yeah, that's a little bit of a recap done. If you've got any questions, yourself and Ollie will be hanging around for a little bit while in live chat. But apart from that, thank you for tuning, and we'll see you next week.